Hi everyone, I'm Kapil Jain and I'm excited to talk about something that every tester, developer, and even manager faces at some point, and that is when tests lie. Now you might be thinking, how can a test lie? It either passes or fails, right? But here's the catch. Tests can lie and they do. Not by themselves, of course, but through how they are written, executed, or interpreted. Today's session is called When Tests Lie Lessons from False Positive and Negatives. Now, we are going to understand why automated tests sometimes give us false confidence or cause some unnecessary panic, and more importantly, how we can reduce these problems. So, let's dive in. Now, let's go with the part one understanding the lies. Let's define the terms a false positive and a false negative. A false positive is when a test passes, but there's actually a bug in the system. Imagine there is a smoke detector that says everything is fine when your kitchen is on fire. Now, a false negative. A false negative is when a test fails, but the system is working as expected. It's like a fire alarm going off in the middle of night for no reason. So these are not just small annoyances, they affect our confidence, slow down development, confuse our engineers, and in the worst case, allow real bugs into production. I have worked in teams where 95% of failed test cases were false negatives. Over time, developers stop paying attention. That's when tests become noisy instead of signals. Now, let's go with part two, which are some real world example. Let me share two stories from my experience. So, the story one goes like in one of the project, we had an automated test for the login flow. It passed every time. Devs made changes, tester merged PRs, everything is green. But one day a customer reported they couldn't log in. Turns out the test was using a mocked authentication response, and we weren't actually hitting the real backend. The backend API had changed actually, but the test didn't catch it because it never called it. That's a false positive. Our test lied and we believed it. Now the story two is something like in another project we had UI test that would randomly failed. Sometimes during checkout, sometimes on the product page. Engineers started calling it the flaky suite. It turned out that the locators were dynamic and the test used static weights. So depending on timing and page load speed, elements were always present. The feature worked, but the test failed. That's a classic false negative, right? We spent hours debugging nothing. It slowed down every release. Fine. So now let's understand why do these false results happen. Let's break it down into some parts. Number one would be poor test design. Fine. Sometimes tests are written just to make the whole execution green, not to catch the real world scenarios. They only assert surface level conditions. Fine. Number two could be like overuse of your mocks and stubs. Mocking is useful, that we know. Fine. But too much of it creates an artificial world where everything passes. You lose your integration coverage. The system becomes a house of all mirrors. Fine. Uh, Other thing could be environment mismatch. Tests that run in staging often don't mirror production. Fine. Different configurations, database versions, or services that can cause misleading results. Flaky infrastructure is one of the major thing that we can't miss out. Like cloud-based test environment might be slow or unstable, especially with the browser test. Latency, DNS, resolution issues, or timeouts that can cause false negatives. Other important thing is hard-coded waits and timers. For example, a test says that wait 3 seconds, assumes everything will be loaded the same way every time. That's not how a real web app works, right? And other thing could be human error in expectations. Sometimes the test passes because the assertion is wrong, like checking that an error message exists even when it shouldn't. Fine. So these are some of the reasons why test false, results happen. Fine. Now let's go with the AI perspective, as AI is now a hot topic. Fine. So AI tools can generate test cases, heals locator, and analyze flaky patterns. But there's a warning. AI can also lie or amplify the lies if there is a we fed bad data. Fine. If your tests are producing false positive and negatives, and the that data is used to train an AI model, you might end up with a system that confidently makes incorrect decisions. Imagine a training an AI flaky test suite. Fine. It might learn that the checkout page is always failing and we deprioritize it, even if it's working fine. Or in the worst case, it might learn to heal the test by ignoring actual bugs. Fine. So while using AI, it's useful. It's not magic. We still need human insights to filter the noise from the signal. So let's use to analyze trends, spot flaky patterns, and recommend retries, not to replace your testing brain. Fine. Now, how do we reproduce test lies? Like, let me give you some practical steps. Write meaningful assertions. Uh, don't just check if element is present. Check if it has a correct text, state, or behavior. Use dynamic weights and smart selectors. Tools like Selenium or Playwright support explicit weights. Wait for condition, not time. Tag flaky test. Use tagging or dashboards to monitor flaky test. Tools like TestRail, Allure, or even custom Grafana dashboards help. Isolate test. Avoid test interdependencies. Uh, each test should run independently and reset the environment as needed. Other thing could be run critical test on real environments, like for smoke and sanity checks. Use real services, real data, and real users if possible. Refactor your tests regularly, like code, test, uh, ROI, refactor them during sprints. Bad tests are worse than no test. So to wrap it up all, test live when we stop questioning them. False positive and false negatives aren't just test problems, they are trust problems. As testers and engineers, our job isn't to automate, it's to validate and observe. And while AI will help us go faster, definitely, it's our responsibility to ensure we are still going in the right direction. Thank you so much for listening. Let's make our test truthful, reliable, and human centered. Thank you.